Hello, everyone. Welcome back. This is our second episode, and this is Sarai.
And I'm Damaris.
And we have been talking a little bit, sis, about faith and fear, faith and fear, faith and fear, fear and
Yes,
faith.
yes, hand in hand. We can hold tension of both of them. Yes.
And is there any personal stories that you would like to share with us that you have confronted fear, but you have had to let yourself be driven by faith?
Yeah, so I think the everything that we've been doing has been driven by faith, with those background noises of the fear
Mm-hmm.
and what ifs. But one of the things that stands out for me was about 2.5 years ago, almost 3 years ago. I was in Georgia. That was my bubble year. That was the year that I had left Florida. I thought Florida was a shackle for me for many, many years because
Mm-hmm.
Florida wasn't a place that I wanted to be. It
Mm-hmm.
was a place that I had to be because this is where my kids were. And so when the time came that I had an opportunity, I felt led that God gave me an out. So I moved to Georgia right after a divorce. And it was very eye-opening for me because that was the place that I got a lot of healing, right?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of healing from trauma.
Mm-hmm.
While I was there, I remembered a lot of trauma since I was 5 years old, but I wasn't suffering the pain of those traumas, but healing from those traumas.
Mm-hmm.
So fast forward, it's time for us to move. And I was like, God, am I supposed to stay here in Georgia? Am I going to Texas? Where am I? I want to travel. I want to do things. I'm single, first time, no children, no husband. Where is it that you want me to go?
Mm-hmm.
And my daughter was moving, her roommate was moving. Everybody had a plan. Everybody had a next step.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm over here like, I don't know what my next step is gonna be. And I had made a conscious decision a year before that I was no longer going to do a move or a decision that God was not in it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I was not going to live the next 40 years of my life the way I lived the last 40 years of my life,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
which was me in control. And
Mm-hmm.
I made a mess of it.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, Lord, I want to do whatever you want me to do.
Right.
And so about 60 days before our lease was up, I'm minding my own business, washing my teeth before I go to work. And immediately I had this impression. It wasn't a voice, it was just an impression. You need to go back to Florida.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, the devil is a lie. I don't want to go back to Florida. And it wasn't because I didn't want to be near you. It was
Right.
because I had
I
been.
hope not.
It was because I wanted to go away from a place that
Right.
I didn't want to be to the begin with. My kids can attest to when they were younger. When y'all get older, I'm out of here. I'm leaving Florida. Y'all can visit me somewhere else. And so it was a challenge
Mm-hmm.
because I'm like, God, but I don't want to go back. I don't want to
Mm-hmm.
go back to Florida. Where's in Florida? You
Mm-hmm.
know what I'm saying? The only thing that was in Florida was you and my son and my best friend.
Mm-hmm.
But still, I wanted something different. I wanted to
Right.
experience something else that I
Change.
hadn't and change and experience something different. And I'm like, God, I think you want something else for me. And
Mm-hmm.
he was like, No, I want you to go to Florida. And so I was like, for 30 days, every day, I don't want to go to Florida. I don't want to go to Florida. And I remember one time sitting with Faith and sitting with her, and I was like, So I got something to tell you. She's like, What? I think I'm supposed to go to Florida. And she's like, Okay, when are you telling Titi Sarah that you're coming to Florida? Because at that time, I don't have a job to go to Florida to.
Mm-hmm.
My job was in a location, so I couldn't move my job. The other thing was, where am I going to move to?
Mm-hmm.
Like, first time without being in a couple, first time not having kids. So now what am I going to do?
Mm-hmm.
And so, and God did not tell me a year before so I can plan. So he told me 60 days before. So even though I had some finances, it wasn't finances that can be.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, I had an accident where my car was totaled. And I was like, okay, I'm going
Right.
back. Now I'm going to have a new expense. I'm going to have
Mhm.
all of these things. So every excuse in the book that I can use in my mind to not wanting to come was,
Right.
I was using all of them. And like clockwork, every week for 30 days, Faith was like, have you told Titi? Have you told Titi? I'm like, no, I haven't told nobody. And so I remember one day she comes into the room and sits in my bed and says, Ma, you need to tell her, because it's not, you're not going to be obedient until you say something about it. As long as you don't talk to the people you need to talk to about this move, you're still not doing what you said you were going to do, which was you were going to be obedient, even if it made you uncomfortable. I'm like, oh, okay. So one day, me and my sisters are doing a video chat. And before Sarah gets on the video, I tell Rebecca and Priscilla, I think I'm moving to Florida and I have to tell Sarah. And they're like, oh, that'll be great. I'm like, no, it's not. This is not what I want to do. I want to do something else. And so they're like, okay. And as soon as we're having that conversation, Sarah gets in the video. And I was like, well, I have something to say. And everybody's like, okay, okay. And I said, Sarah, I'm coming to Florida. And at that moment, you started crying. And you're like, I've been praying to God to bring my sister. Okay, this is the episode that I'm going to cry.
You hear that again? I think I should need some more tissue.
I'm like, get your tissues, people. And so I come and I said, Sarah, I think God is calling me to go back to Florida, but I don't know how I feel about it. And you started crying and you were like, I've been praying for God to bring family. I need that connection. I need family. And I was like, okay, and we kept our conversation. And I was like, okay, I took the first step.
Right.
I'm coming. Right. Then I was like, then several days later, Sarah and I have a conversation. I'm like, girl, I don't have a job. What am I going to do? And I want to preface this with saying that while I was in Georgia, after the first 6 months of being in Georgia and all this healing happens and God is speaking to me and God is saying all these things to me about this is what I want you to do. And I was like really focused on just me and the Lord. While I'm speaking to God of God, what should I do and everything like that, I want to use my talents and everything like that. And I'm like, God, I feel stronger. Like I can lead people and I can do these things. And I'm like, what should I do next? And I'm asking, and I would pick up my phone and would start looking for work everywhere. Remote work in Texas for whatever reasons. I wanted to go to Texas.
She wanted to go to Texas.
Don't know why.
She really wanted
to go to Texas. And then at one point I wanted to go to Tulsa.
Right.
Because that's my church is Tulsa, right? And so I'm like, I'm going to go to Tulsa. So I'm looking for work. And I literally will tell you that every time I picked up my phone to look for work in these places or look for an apartment or prices, I would hear, put your phone down. For 6 months.
You even went over there for conference.
I went for a conference. I started looking for apartments in Tulsa. I was traveling, looking at places. I was doing all of it. And every time I picked up the phone to look for an apartment, literally in my ear, like if you were sitting next to me, put your phone down. So here I am 60 days out and God keeps telling me to put the phone down. And I'm like, now you're going to tell me where I'm going to go after me asking you for almost 8 months? Anyways, fast forward, I come and I tell you, hey, I don't even have a job. Mind you, I had been trying to get into your company for years because it's remote. So I was like, I want to get into that company. It'll make it easier. And for whatever reason, 3 weeks before I was supposed to come, you gave my resume to your supervisor. I had 3 interviews within 1 day. Within 2 days, I had a job. Within 60 days, God gave a word. Within 30 days, I submitted to the word.
It's crazy.
And within 3 weeks, I had a job. And I came, but this is the funny thing, right? Because, we've been thinking like it's still we want to control the situation, right?
Right.
And so I'm like, okay, God, if this is what you want me to do, then I'm going to do me, right? I am the matriarch of our family. I'm going to be the supportive sister. I'm going to be there for my nephew. I'm going to do all of these things, right? Because I needed purpose. I
Yeah.
needed to put a name to the reason why I was coming.
Right, right.
And so I was like, this is what I'm going to do, but this is the service that I'm going to provide, because we think it's all about us, right? And I get here and very exciting. We're together, we're hanging out. Our relationship had shifted, but I think it shifted because I had healed. And because I had healed, I was able to have open and honest and transparent
Kind
conversation.
of went into a different dimension.
Yes, our conversation were deeper. And even though we've always been very supportive of each other and very encouraging, it was another level of honesty that we had. And to the point that our spirits were kindred spirits. Our spirits were connected. We could read each other better.
Right.
I was no longer hiding behind, I'm really tough. I got everything under control kind of situation. And we started like watching a series, some preacher, a series, and every day, every Sunday, we would sit at the kitchen table and we would talk about it. And I would break down. And we would talk about it and I would break down. Then the next Sunday, I would break down. And I'm like, Lord, if you don't stop making me cry, every time I sit at a kitchen table with my sister, we got problems. Like, I don't like to be this vulnerable for anybody. And one day I'm talking to you and I was expressing to you how I was always seeking friendships, right? Always, I would see these people with all these friends and but these solid friends and all of these things and I was like, I want to have those, you know what I'm saying? Because I do have a best friend, but I wanted like to have that community, you know what I'm saying, of all these friends. But I've always been a person that my friends are not always know each other because I had past trauma that they became friends and they isolated me. And then I was like, what the heck is wrong with me? I'm a good friend, But that was something that I carried for a very long time. And we had such in-depth conversations about friendship and what that meant. And I remember one day I was just crying and crying and crying and crying and crying about that. And you looked at me and she says, I want to tell you something, that your heart is not for everybody to have. And I'm like, what do you mean by that? She's like, God has protected you from entertaining certain relationships because your heart is too precious to just be manhandled by anybody. And at that moment, I was like, God, you have been protecting me this whole time. And this whole time, I've been complaining about how I don't have community or I only allow certain people to get close to me. But I understood at that point and I was able to release that yearning that I had that was misplaced because you gave me perspective, right? And so that to me was like, God said, this is the reason why I needed you here. I have healed you from past traumas. Right. But the reason why he had healed me from that past trauma was for me to not be triggered by those past traumas. Exactly. So when he did that, now I can deal with deeper stuff because that was all the stuff people did to me, all the trauma that I had
that you held on to.
Now it was the trauma that I caused myself by thinking the way I was thinking, by causing these things in my life. In addition to that, my character, or at least who I am as a core, as a person, I had labeled based off of the characters that I lived by, or the facade that I lived by, or the shell that I created for myself to protect myself, right? And so
I used shield of protection.
Yeah, I used to always tell you, well, I'm like this and I'm like that, and you're like, no, you're not. And I'm like, yes, I am. Like, yes, I am tough. Yes, I am. And this is the kind of aura that I'm gonna give. And you were like, okay, but that's not who you are. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, this is who I am. She's like, no, that's not who you are. You are kind. You are lovable. You are this. And you kept speaking these words of affirmation into my life of who I am. He said, no, those are things that you have used in your life to protect yourself and for
Right.
people not to get close to you. But that's not who you are. So to me, even though I took that step in fear,
Right.
because I didn't know what it was and it wasn't what I wanted to do.
And to be vulnerable is not easy.
No. And
especially when you put those shields like right in front.
I don't like to be vulnerable. I don't like to be accountable. I don't want to do none of that stuff. Okay. So I'm putting it out there because
it's true.
It's exactly what it is, right?
Right.
And so it was a lot of fear making those decisions, but I chose to believe the report of the Lord. I was going to take his word for it. Right? And I said, God, I'm going to trust you to make this move. And I did the move. And it wasn't for me. And yes, I was helpful and I was there encouraging you and stuff like that. But God had other plans. He says, I need to put you in a circle, in a different cocoon. Because I felt that Georgia was my bubble year. Like, you couldn't tell me nothing, right? But then God put me in a sensitive situation, right? Where I can no longer be this. I had to take all the walls down and be emotionally naked in front of you. But it was in a safe place. And God knew he wasn't going to allow just anybody to share that with me. And so, and because I don't like to listen, if somebody would have told me this, I'd probably be like, you don't know what you're talking about. Don't tell me about me because I know me. Right. You know what I'm saying? But God had to put me in a place where it was so sincere and so raw in those moments that I can accept it. Because I was so for like a month crying every Sunday after service. So it gave me the opportunity to receive what God had for me. And so I think that in the process, walking through fear in faith, I came to the other side a more vulnerable person where I can't cry at the drop of a dime.
You never cried. You never cried. It didn't matter what conversation it was. maybe family conversations, but it barely.
I barely cried.
But it's because I didn't want when you let your walls down.
Yeah, because I just didn't want. I always felt that I needed to be strong, strong for everybody else. I've always felt that I needed to be the responsible one, because I had made so many mistakes, right? And so I wanted to be that person people can rely on, and not people that people said, oh my God, we have to give to her, right? But that comes a lot from a place of, for so long, the false narrative that the enemy had put in my mind, that in fear, I was so fearful that I would not be accepted. Which is a lie of the enemy. Exactly. You know what I'm saying? Because when I was going through everything, you know, in my past with abuse and a lot of other things and backsliding and doing all of these things, the repeating comment in my mind was, you are a disgrace. You have shamed your family. You have shamed the church. You are a shame. And the biggest hurdle that a lot of us Christians, believers, have is that the enemy just bombards you with this condemnation. And the thing about it is that if you don't have outside voices that are speaking love and positivity to you, and you're already broken, it will fester in your mind. And you just go in circles and circles.
You don't get out of it.
You don't. And since the whole thing, a lot of people have a misconception. The devil is only one person. He can't be everywhere at the same time. He just plants a seed. And then life traumas and your outside things and your thoughts, you sit in those and you fester in them, and you create these false narratives of who you are and what you need to present yourself to be in front of people. And so having a secure place where I'm being seen as who I am, accepted for who I am, then you guys were able to like pull that out of me and be like, no, you are loved. You are okay. You don't have to continue to put these barriers up to protect yourself, at least not in this circle. Right. So the creation of that safe place for us
Mm-hmm.
was very instrumental in the healing process for me, because I no longer felt like I had to be the strong one or the one
Right.
that has to lead the family, but I can actually fall back and rely and put my weight on you guys,
Right.
and I didn't have to carry all the weight.
Mm-hmm.
And so walking in fear, well, walking through fear with faith is what's going to bring you to the other side.
Yes.
And so I think that with everything that we're doing here, you know, and sharing our stories, we can let people know that there is safe places out there. And it may, your relationship with the Lord may have to be the starting point for that.
Right.
I was very fortunate that I have my sisters and I have my family that I can breathe, you know what I'm saying? And say what I need to say,
Right.
and be like, that's right, you know, or no, that's not right. That we're not doing that. But it was a very transformative time of my life, where even though I was very fearful, I obeyed God and held on to his faith like it was a life jacket. You know what I'm saying? And so that to me was the start of an amazing relationship, better than ever relationship with my sisters, my family, everybody is maybe into a crybaby. You know what I'm saying? But I'm more sensitive to what's going on because I'm not holding it all together anymore.
Right. And there's beauty in that. There's beauty in that. Also, I think another thing that's really important is your surroundings and who do you let to feed things into your ear, because you can have many friends, but sometimes you have to, you know, I always say friends come through seasons and people come to your life because of different seasons and so forth. And I think that that's really important. It goes trying to find that relationship with the Lord, but also knowing who to listen to and who not to listen to, and who to kind of eliminate for a while until you get to that place of understanding where you're at and how to go about it.
Yeah.
So that's definitely important.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So
you're feeling good?
I'm feeling better. I'm doing good.
You're feeling good. And you're doing a great job, and I'm so proud of you. I always tell you that.
Thank you.
So
yeah,
it's a daily work.
Oh my
daily
God,
work. It's like it's a daily decision. It's a daily decision to choose God, to choose you, to choose healing, to choose, to move forward.
It's a daily decision to keep your hands open to receive what God has for you.
Right.
Because people that are control freaks, like I was a proclaimed control freak for a very long time. I thought that was another false narrative, that I can control my situation. But when you lead your life with an open heart and open hand to receive what God has for you, you're more sensitive to lean into it and accept it. Right. I've always been rogue. I've always never want to listen. But I love the fact that now I'm able to just sit and receive, because I know that you have my best interest at heart. Priscilla and Rebecca have my best interest at heart, and you love me unconditional, the way God loves his children. And because you guys reflected that on me, I can reflect it on other people, right? And it brought so much healing, not only how to love myself, but also my mental health, and everything else improved. My relationship with my children improved. My relationship with people improved. And so it was a journey, but it's one that I'm very happy that I have, because now I can talk about it.
It's worth it.
I can talk about it.
Absolutely. Well, I'm happy that you are feeling better. And we want to say thank you to all of you guys for taking out of your time to be here with us in these two first episodes that we're going to be launching, and or that we have already launched, I would say.
Yeah.
We've climbed this far.
I know, praise the Lord.
But thank you so much. Thank you so much for sharing. And I hope that this has been amazing thing for your life and something that has touched your heart. And nothing. You have anything else to say, sis?
No, I guess we're going to see you in the next round.
We'll see you guys then, and share and comment, like, and subscribe. We didn't even practice that.
We never practiced that, because I think that it's gonna happen.
We didn't even.
But it's like that. I'm not an influencer.
I know, me either.
So it's like, we hope you come and see us next time for sure.
Yes,
and listen to our next stories.
And thank you so much. We love you guys, and we'll see you later.
Yes. Bye, guys.